Hey everyone, welcome back to 4J Music. You know, we have a major problem in our churches, and I'm going to speak specifically about the United States, but I think this is a worldwide thing where we just don't have enough people to serve in ministry, and specifically, because this is a music channel, I'll refer to the worship ministry, and we have many worship teams out there that, from week to week, they're struggling to find people that can serve, and a lot of times people that, maybe have the willingness but don't have the capacity to serve because maybe they don't have the training. So I actually made this same exact video that I'm going to make for you today. I made it in Spanish because my heart has always been, with the Spanish churches, and that's where I grew up, and I see that being a major problem there as well, and I know that it's a problem everywhere. So the angle with which I'm approaching this is there are a lot of people that again, they have the willingness to serve, but they don't have the music theory background. And if you were to go to take piano lessons from somebody right now, they'd probably have you reading the notes on the staff and maybe, learning certain positions on the fingerings and everything. And all that's really, really important. But this video is more geared to having you be able to learn the absolute basic fundamentals to be able to play on a worship team very quickly. Okay, so I'm not going to go over the notes on the staff. I'm not going to go over a lot of those types of things where you learn more in a more traditional route. This is a more accelerated way to have you play. You can start, depending on how much time you devote to this process, you could be playing, very soon. Whatever that means to you soon, it really depends on the amount of time that you invest to put this into practice on your own. So let's get into it right now. The very first thing I want to talk to you about are the note names, okay? We use the letters of the alphabet all the way from A to G. We don't go past G. We don't go to H or Q or whatever. So that's not part of the musical alphabet. I also want to talk about flats and sharps. And so, the way I teach my young kids at school when we learn flats and sharps is when you flatten something, you actually smash it and it goes down. So if I'm playing a B flat, and I'll show you on my keyboard here in a second, it's going to be a note that is lower than a regular B, okay? Or if I play, let's say, an F sharp, I have my regular F. If I were to sit on something sharp, it would probably make me jump up a little bit. And so that would be a way to make a note higher by half a step, okay? So let me go ahead and show you some of those note names. I'll shoot from overhead and kind of talk you through that. All right, so this right here is our keyboard. And you notice we have the white keys and the black keys, okay? And the way the piano is set up is there are a lot less of the black keys, and they're grouped in a way where there's two, and then there's this little valley of space right here where there would normally have been a black key, and then there's not, and then we have a grouping of three, and then there's another valley, right? So when you have the grouping of two, the very first note to the left of that's a C, okay? When you have the grouping of three, the very note to the left of that is an F. So if we are going that direction to my right on the keyboard, then we're actually going down the alphabet. Okay, so A, B, C, D, E, F, G, we're going in that order. So here's my C, D, E, and look, here's my F that we just used the three notes here as a reference point, F, G, A, B, and then look, here's my other next pair of notes right here, okay? So we only use those notes right there, and they just repeat. So this is a low C, this is a higher C, and we have even more octaves of C that reoccur, okay? One of the things I would suggest is go ahead and practice those notes, okay? Again, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, okay? You can start anywhere, and that's one of my first tests that I do with my percussion kids is we quiz them on the note names, okay? And they think they can figure it out and they can kind of count up, and that's not good enough. You have to be able to look at a note and know right away that's an A right there, okay? If you don't have that speed and that comfort level with the notes, then you don't know it well enough to move on. And don't learn it until you get it right. Learn it until you can't get it wrong. Now, moving on, we also have the black keys. We can kind of talk a little bit about those right there. So I want to start with a D right here. Okay, so there's my C, go up, that's a D. I spoke a moment ago about how you can make a note flat, in this case lower. So this note right here is a D. If I would make it a half step lower, I go down to that note, and that's a D flat, okay? Or there's a D again, and I can go up a half step to a D sharp, all right? You can do that with any notes. So in this note right here would be an A, okay? I can go down to A flat, or A up to A sharp, okay? And so that's how we have note names for the black keys. And you notice that a black key can have more than one name. We call those enharmonics, okay? So for example, this note right here is a G. I can go down to G flat, or here's my F, up to F sharp. And so a lot of times I talk to my students about how if they have a middle name, and so it might be Johnny, and then the middle name is Bobby or something like that. So this can be Bobby or Johnny. It's the same thing, same pitch. Whether we call it a G flat or an F sharp, that's going to still sound the same. Now, there's a reason why we would call it one or the other depending on what key we're in. Okay. All right. So again, go through those and really quiz yourself or what the note names are on the keyboard. Okay. There's a lot of websites out there. I know musictheory.net is a really popular one that you can, see the notes on the keyboard and be able to quiz yourself. If you don't have fluency with that, you're not going to be comfortable enough to be able to identify note names fast enough to play a song. All right, now, so I spoke a moment ago about intervals, okay? Intervals, that is the distance between two notes. And so we're just going to kind of talk about two different types of intervals, okay? When I go from this note right here, which hopefully by now you're comfortable with that, that's a C, and I go from this note up and I don't skip any notes, that is a half step, okay? It's the next possible note up. I also can go half step down. Okay, that's from C to B. There's no note in between there, right? Okay, those are half steps. So you can do that with, let's say you go to this note right here, which hopefully you figured out that's a G sharp or an A flat. If I go up a half step, I'm going to land on an A. All right, those are half steps. Now, if there can be a half step, there can also be a whole step, right? And so going back to C again, we're going to go from C up a whole step to D. All right, and you notice that I skipped this black key right here. And so that would have been a half step. From this C sharp or D flat to here is another half step. Together, those two half steps equal a whole step, okay? And so that relationship right there is very, very important. Understanding if you're skipping a note or if it's a half step or a whole step, right? C down a whole step would be B flat or A sharp, right? So here's my half step to B, and then this B to B flat or A sharp, that's my other half step together. That equals a whole step. Now, the reason I show you that is because that is how we can make a major scale. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start on a C. And to build a major scale, all you need to remember is this formula: whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. When I say that, I'm talking about steps, not notes. A lot of times when people try to use that formula to build a scale, they'll go whole, whole, half, and that's actually not a half step. Okay. We can start on C. Then when you go up a whole step, you'll have to skip that black key and go to here, and that step is what we're talking about. So don't go whole, whole, half. That is incorrect. It's your first note, then whole step, another whole step. So we skipped that black key. Now my half step, I land on the F. Then we go whole, 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 half. So from B to C it's another half step, okay? So those notes, that actually builds a major scale. Right? Now you can do that with any note. Okay, so let's say you wanted to do that in F. All right, this is going to be our first note. Again, that's not a step, that's a note. So when we go from here to our next note, we want a whole step. So whole, whole, half. Then we're going to skip the B and go whole, 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 another half step there. So that's my F scale. All right, and that's how I can play any scale. Okay, I can do that for even the black keys. Okay, let's say I'm going to play on an E flat here. That's going to be my starting pitch. From E flat up, I'm going to skip this right here. That's going to be a half step. So I'd go to the F for my whole step, another whole step to the G. Then I need a half step to A flat, whole, 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 and then half. Okay, you can do that for any keys, and that's how you build a major scale. It's very important to have that foundational understanding of the note names and what the steps are, what the relationship between those notes are. The smallest two types of steps, okay, between notes, because that's how you build a major scale. And a lot of our music, most of our music that we play in churches is actually in a major key. So it's really important that you know that, okay? This video, as long as it is, okay, right now, and I hate that it's super long, and some of you guys probably already checked out by now, but it is not enough, okay? You have to practice this and get fluent with it so that you're able to identify notes quickly and also be able to build those scales. If you were to get a chord chart right now of, I don't know, Waymaker or something like that, at the very top, it would tell you we're in the key of G or something like that. So the very first thing I would do is just understand the notes that I use for the key of G and play that scale over and over and over again, okay? And the majority of the chords that we use in contemporary Christian music are going to be what we call diatonic chords. That means that they belong to that particular key. As you familiarize yourself with all the different keys, for example, in the key of G, the only black key I would use is F sharp. Okay, I know I'm not going to show you the video for that, but trust me, as you do your scales, you'll know that F sharp is the one black key. You can start getting familiar with the different shapes and patterns that your hands will have to make the different chords. Okay, now that was a really quick crash course on the note names and intervals and how to build a major scale. In the next video, we're actually going to assign a number to every single one of those notes in a scale. And that's how we're going to start building triads, okay? We're going to build chords because a lot of music isn't just, one note at a time clinking around like that. They're actually chords that are supporting the harmonies of the vocals and the chord structure of the song. And so we have to be able to have a way to figure out when to play this chord, when to play that chord, and also if it's a major or minor chord, okay? So having that foundation of the scale is really important, and it'll pretty much kind of work itself out, and you'll see how if you tune in next time, okay? Please practice this. This is just one video, but there are several other ones coming out that'll help guide you through from not knowing any note on the keyboard to being able to maybe play a synth part in a matter of a few weeks or months at a church if you really devote yourself and spend some time on it. All right. Thanks, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.